There are no new targets in this video on Major League Baseball, although we will see some targets that we've seen in past videos. The purpose of this video is just to show that Major League Baseball is and always has been at the center of a whole lot of evil. It was not some joke or coincidence that I've showed you in past videos. These people are at the front of all of it. Not these people on the screen. These are just the home run kings, Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, and Barry Bonds. But the league, the organization, has always been at the center of a whole lot of wickedness, and we're going to see that in the next few minutes. These are baseball's three home run kings, Ruth, Aaron, and Bonds. All of their record home runs are synced with the Queen's death, and they all sync the same messages. I'll just tell you right now what they are. One of them is Her Majesty the Queen, the other is His Majesty the King. And one is both of them. We will see that in the next few minutes. A whole lot else is synced also, best shown by example. And the intro for this video is 3 Bible verses. You need to know 3 Bible verses for this video or any video that I do. We've already seen Revelation 13:18 a bunch of times, and we'll be seeing it in this video too. But there's also John 3:16, probably the best well-known verse in the Bible. You can see it on billboards in some cities in America. And we're going to start off with Isaiah 7:14. That's 7:14, like Babe Ruth's famous home run. The first verse in the Bible that prophesies a Savior, a Messiah, Emmanuel. That's where we start. Remember, the date I'm warning you about, December 17th, 2022, can be written as 1712 or 1217, Jesus of Nazareth, Emmanuel. So, Babe Ruth's last game, May 30th, 1935, he hit his last home run, his 714th, which just happens to spell Son of God. We're going to sync that with December 17th, 2022. And we're going to get Isaiah 7:14. 1518. 1518. As always, we ignore the zeros. 1518. 7:14. 7:14. 7:14. Emmanuel. Emmanuel. That was the meaning of his big 714th home run. That was part of the meaning. Now, his name was Ruth. Ruth was a biblical figure. She had her own book, the Book of Ruth. She ended up being the great-grandmother of David, as in Star of David, as in David and Goliath, King David. And his lineage eventually produced the Messiah, Jesus, Emmanuel. Babe means child. Babe Ruth. And further, this is important, Ruth's husband was a man named Boaz, and Boaz is rumored to be the Freemasons' initiation word, I guess, the secret word they tell you upon initiation. That's what the rumor is. So when Major League Baseball saw a guy named Babe Ruth, they decided to make him a very big star. But what you saw is only part of the meaning of that big game. He also hit his final RBI in that game, his 22/14th, and look what that spells. And look what 530 spells. So now we're going to sync it with the Queen's death, which just happens to be Charles' ascension to the throne. And like I said, we get His Majesty the King, Charles. Now this day in 1935, Charles wasn't even born then. I guess the royals just kind of know who's going to be coming up. They knew it was going to be a boy. I don't know how they do that, but I know that this is not an accident, just like everything you're about to see is also not an accident. Very disturbing, and it gets worse. Let's sync with the day the Queen came to the throne, February 6th, 1952, when her father died. We were told naturally. No, if it were natural, it wouldn't spell this, or this, or those other 2 verses I just told you about. John 3:16, Revelation 13:18. We get all of this that we've seen in the last few minutes from Babe Ruth's final game. Babe Ruth was as big a star as Major League Baseball has ever had, and that is what they used him for. So now we're going to move on to the next home run king who broke his record, Hank Aaron. And yes, if you're paying attention, Aaron is also a biblical figure. Aaron was the brother of Moses, became the first high priest of Israel. Both Babe Ruth and Henry Hank Aaron were chosen because of their names. They have biblical names. Hank's even matches with State of Israel. This is why they were chosen. And like I said, when Aaron tied Babe Ruth's record of 714 home runs on this date, sync that with the Queen's death, and you get, like I said, Her Majesty the Queen. Just like Babe's home run synced His Majesty the King, Hank's syncs Her Majesty the Queen. And as we'll see soon, Barry Bonds syncs them both. We also get another biblical message, Jesus Christ. And when you look at the box score for that game, 7-1-3-1, United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. 6-6-0, United Kingdom. Tell me this is an accident. Tell me this just produced itself, happened on its own. Extremely disturbing. And if you notice anything else about this box score, if you know baseball, if you know the history of home run hitters, you're going to take one look at this box score like I did and said, what are you joking? On this day, when Hank tied Babe's record, they both had 714 or 713 plus 1, just like that bottom line shows. And Willie Mays had 660, the top row. So this box score was a tribute to the three top home run hitters on that day. And if you're really, really paying attention, this was opening day. Hank was at 713 homers for the entire offseason. That's 6 months and 6 days. So he was at 713 underneath those 6 months and 6 days, for 6 months and 6 days, and then he finally got out from underneath it. That's where that 1 is on the end. He's finally out from underneath all that pressure of the entire offseason. That's what the organization Major League Baseball did. They fixed the box score to look like that. We'll see more of this. That was his his tying home run. Now we're going to look at his tie-breaking home run, what was at the time the biggest game ever, I think, in Major League Baseball's history. It's still one of the top 2 or 3 moments in their history. April 8th, 74, which just happens to be exactly 50 years before the second of the 2 twin eclipses. I didn't get into the twin eclipses in this video series, didn't have time. But they definitely celebrated. If you include the end day, it's 50 years in 1 day, 501. Okay, why does that matter? Here's why that matters. If you watch the video, and I encourage everyone to watch this video of his big home run, 2 teenagers came out on the field. Their names were Cliff Courtney and Britt Gaston. 501, 501, 501, 501. And since this is syncing the eclipse, what happens in an eclipse? 3 bodies align. The Earth, the Moon, and the Sun. They align for just an instant, and then they disperse again. And that's what happened here. These 3 bodies aligned for a brief moment, and then diverged again. That's what you were seeing. That's what everybody was seeing. Thought it was some spontaneous, youthful moment of joy. It wasn't. It was a tribute to the eclipse. And now, we're going to sync it with the Queen's death and her ascension to the throne. Here's where we sync back to the Queen's ascension to the throne, and here's where we sync forward to her death. And what do you know? We get United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland in English. The Queen is English. Not a coincidence. There's a whole lot more. Everyone knew that home run would be hit over the left field fence, and there was an advertisement waiting. Now this is prime real estate for advertising. I mean, this got so many views. And they sent a message, think of it as money. What could that mean? Oh, okay. She is on a lot of money. I don't know if this was the joke. She lives in Buckingham Palace. Money is bucks. Think of it as money. First National Bank was who was given the privilege of giving this advertisement, and look at this. If you could look at any of this, everything I've shown you in 10 minutes, if you could see this and not understand that this is totally fixed, I don't know what to say to you. Go watch cartoons. And now we're going to get into this box score. If you thought the last box score was a doozy, this one is twice as bad. This box score sends us back 476 days, like that top row says. Now the 4-7 pattern that you kind of see play out here, 4-7, 4-7, 4-7, 4-7 in a square, that's actually a tribute to Euclid, his 47th problem. Watch the last video, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself there. But we have 4 plus 7 in a square, or 11 squared, which is 121. That's going to be our marker that confirms that the top row tells us to go back 476 days. That's how we know that the top row isn't telling us 4 years, 7 months, 6 days, or something like that. The box score says go back 476 days to the day that is marked with a 121. And that would be right here. December 18th, 72. You go back 476 days to the date marked with a 121. That's how anybody can read and interpret this and know what they're talking about. Okay, fine. Why are we doing this? What does 476 mean? It means Vietnam War, which was going on at the time. We're going back to a battle in the Vietnam War. What battle was that? That was Operation Linebacker 2. Another 1518. Operation Linebacker 2 was an offensive that commenced that day. The Christmas bombings, the December raids. And we're going to sync that with December 17th, 2022 coming up, and also the second twin eclipse that the teenagers were symbolizing. And we get Christmas bombings and December raids. So we're definitely in the right spot. We definitely interpreted that box score in the right way. This is where we're supposed to be. And there's even more evidence. What happened in this battle? On this particular day, a plane went down. And that plane was called the Aardvark. That plane went down for unknown reasons. Unknown. That day, and for every day in the battle, this was the only plane that crashed for reasons unknown. And it was called the Aardvark plane, like Aaron, A-A-R, A-A-R. Here's the official name, General Dynamics F111A Aardvark, like Aaron. So we're definitely in the right place. Nobody names a plane Aardvark anyway. Aardvarks don't even fly. They named it to get these numbers to line up. It also means Jesus of Nazareth. No surprise at this point. So we're at the right place. Look at the date itself. The date and the year. What does that tell us? Her Majesty the Queen, His Majesty the King, ancient and accepted Scottish rite of Freemasonry in Satanic. And the other two are in English because the King and Queen are English. And like I said, we get some targets we were already used to seeing. Columbia University in the city of New York. Universitas Columbiae. Think of it as money. Even the word Aardvark looks like Columbia University. Incredible. They must have spent a lot of time on this. And now we sync this date to the Queen's death. And we might as well sync it to Hank Aaron's death while we're at it. He died on this date, January 22, 2021, very shortly after receiving a certain vaccine I'm not going to mention here. Columbia University in the city of New York, United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, both in English. But we're worried about December 17th. What are we going to get for that day? The 600 that we already saw, 2685 and 2686, what do those tell us? Union Theological Seminary in the city of New York, also called UTS, like you see right here. The Grossman School of Medicine's Smilow Center that we've already seen. NYU Medical Center, I have to think that that's intended too. Same old stuff, just more confirmation. And we got all that from this box score. But I knew it was fixed when I saw that the Dodgers made 6 errors in the biggest game of all time, in only 8 innings on field. Even little leaguers aren't this bad. It's fixed. And one more thing happened that day. And when I saw it, I just couldn't believe. I just couldn't believe it. I knew it couldn't be a coincidence. Joe Biden's first wife and 1-year-old daughter died in a car accident. And look who's in the White House now for the 50th anniversary. It's all planned very, very far in advance. So that day Hank hit his record-breaking home run, does it sync with December 17th, 2022? Yeah, like I said, it's a tribute to Euclid, 4-7, his 47th problem. Getting ahead of myself, getting into the final video here. But the 47th problem of Euclid, 47 is the Freemasons' number. There's a hat brand for Major League Baseball called 47 brand. You may even own one of those hats. And there's even more. But I need to keep this video brief. So we're going on to Barry Bonds now. Like Ruth and Aaron, Bonds' big home run, in this case, he broke Hank's record of 755 with 756 on this day. You sync that with the Queen's death, and like I told you, you get both of them this time. Her Majesty the Queen, His Majesty the King. One in English, one in Jewish. Don't know if that has any meaning or not. His final home run, which is still the record, hit on the date you see shown there. Universitas Columbiae, sync it, Universitas Columbiae. Columbia University in the city of New York, Barry Bonds. Now, why was Barry chosen to be a home run king? Because his name is not Ruth or Aaron or anything biblical. Why did they choose him? I had to figure this one out. His birthday. Sync that with December 17th, 2022. 5826. What does that give us? That gives us that verse in Satanic. So when they saw that, he was their guy. What else does his birthday sync? Hassenfeld Children's Hospital, like we saw in the video on NYU Grossman School of Medicine. All those hospitals are right next to each other in the same quarter-mile stretch. Now, Hassenfeld Children's Hospital makes sense when you look at Barry's last game. Let's sync that with December 17th. And that's not good. Hassenfeld Children's Hospital. Sync Barry's first game on 5/30/1986, Her Majesty the Queen. Sync that with the Queen's death. Hassenfeld Children's Hospital. These people are nuts. They match numbers everywhere. Probably haven't even found half of it. So yes, even Barry Bonds' first game was synchronized. Was Hank Aaron's first game synchronized? You bet. the Smilo Center again, and something Masonic, what's called Mother Supreme Council of the World, Supreme Council, Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite, Southern Jurisdiction, USA, also called Mother Supreme Council of the World. Pretty exhausting. That's enough with home run hitters for now, but I'm going to show you one last example of just how wicked this league is. I want to show you what they're willing to do, that they're willing to off people. They're very willing. A guy named Shannon Stone died at Ranger Stadium on July 7th, 2011. There he is falling after, I think, an outfielder threw him a ball and he reached over to catch it and fell like 15 feet and managed to die. Look what 7711 means, and look what happens when you sink it to the Queen's death. Now you see why they picked a man named Shannon Stone. And look, sink back in time to the Queen's ascension to the throne. United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Look at this. This man died on this day. What do you think of that? George W. Bush was present that day. Now, after this, I thought you'd have enough, but I found two more examples, and I want to include them. Randy Johnson threw a perfect game May 18th, 04. Now, a perfect game is a rare thing. There were roughly 20 perfect games in Major League Baseball history, I think, and this is going back more than 120 years. So, roughly twice a decade, maybe, you see a perfect game. It's a rare thing. Randy Johnson threw one. Randy Johnson was a huge guy. He was like 6'5" or 6'6". He was known as the big unit. Look, a big guy named Johnson. Call him the big unit. I don't need to explain that one. He was known as the big unit. What we're going to do is sync that perfect game that we were told happened on its own back to September 11th, and then we're going to sync it forward to December 17th, 2022. Sync back to 9/11. Randall David Johnson, big unit. Both in Satanic. What do we get when we sync forward to December 17th, 2022? The most satanic verse in the Bible, the verse about 666. Now you know why they celebrated this occasion when they did. Revelation 13:18 matches with perfect game. Last example, Orel Hershiser set his record of 59 consecutive scoreless innings on the last day of the season, 1988. They even extended that game to 10 innings to get him the record. His streak continued into the postseason, making 67 scoreless innings in a row if you count the postseason. We're going to sync both those dates to September 11th and then sync them to December 17th, 2022. September 11th first, what are we going to get? World Trade Center, Orel Leonard Hershiser IV. That's his name. Sync forward in time to December 17th, we get the same number twice, 3422. That must be the message. What does that tell us? Square and compasses. The logo, the Masons logo, the square and compasses. It's not the square and compass like most people think. It's the square and compasses, plural. Two of them are attached to each other. Square and compasses. In the squares cipher. And Orel Hershiser looks a lot like their hero, Euclid. That's what I wanted to show you. This league is completely fixated and obsessed with British royalty, Freemasonry, acts of terror, and Satanism. Thank you for watching.